Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everyone, to another stream of SpaceX Starship test flights. For some reason, Windows is messing with my camera settings repeatedly. Like every time I cut away from the camera and come back, it's broken. Don't know why that is. Not a big fan of that. But nice to have you all here. Busta, good to see you, buddy. How are you? How's your family? This stream will be a little bit different. It's science and technology based. So we don't have many of the alerts and other chaos enabled on purpose. I'm going to be streaming both to my Twitch channel as well as to my main aviation, space, and technology and defense channel on YouTube, not my gaming channel. Hi, Jack. It's good to see you, buddy. Thanks again for stopping by late last night. How are you and your family? Lovely to have you here. Oh, yeah. Hi, Jack. So we keep the audio off until we're doing the actual launch itself, because companies like this will sometimes, without warning, cut away to corporate videos where they have licensed music that they haven't licensed to make available to the press. So to avoid any complications, we're just going to run with the visuals until we get closer to launch time. Thanks, Busta. Yeah, I don't ever want to infringe anybody else's intellectual property, specifically copyright, either on purpose or even accidentally. So I try and make good choices around that. It's good to see you both here. I appreciate you. This, assuming that they launch, this should be a wonderful spectacle to observe and to share with our wonderful community. Just to catch you folks up, if you're not familiar with the saga of the flight testing to date on Starship, there have been some spectacular successes as well as some spectacular failures. We're at test flight 9 of the all-up Starship system, and the Starship system arguably consists of the ground Megazilla capture arms, the super heavy booster, which is the part we're looking at on screen right now, as well as the Starship upper stage. The entirety of the system is intended to be reusable, which is wonderful and innovative. It's also a huge technological leap. This is what it looks like catching the super heavy booster, which they've done several times now. But they have never attempted to catch the Starship upper stage. And in fact, what they're flying today, if they launch, is a second generation Starship upper stage, which unfortunately on the 2 prior test flights of this new generation upper stage have failed to make it into space successfully. In fact, they've had 2 explosions, RUDs, or system failures such that the flight termination system required the rules for the automatic or manual use of the flight termination system. They haven't been really clear about this, have been triggered, and at least on one of the flights, it was commanded to self-destruct because of the problems they were experiencing. Basically, they've been having issues with fuel leaks, fires in the aft compartment of the Starship upper stage, and have not been able to get to space. They have not been actually trying to achieve orbit. I've been careful not to use the term orbit. They are going to space, but they are not going to orbit. It is a suborbital mission profile. The goal is to basically hurl the Starship upper stage up into space with the Super Heavy, go back and land the Super Heavy. In fact, this Super Heavy is the first one that they are attempting a reflight on. This Super Heavy will be reflown, and the last I heard, 29 of the Raptor engines on that first stage will be reflown. So that is a major milestone that they are attempting to achieve on this flight. But the Starship, as I mentioned, is brand new, has never been flown. The two prior attempts, as I mentioned, resulted in destruction of that upper stage. Hello, Elusive. How are you feeling, my friend? Very good to see you. Wee, how are you? Good to see you, my friend. Wow. Definitely a VIP in the house. Absolutely. It is an aggressive, iterative approach that they take, one that is unusual in space flight or aviation and flight at all. Usually, one does not have the luxury of a budget to do this, let alone the appetite for risk that the leadership of this company possesses. They are making rapid advances and progress with their expenditures, the scale of which those expenditures are unknown to me, and I don't think there's any credible numbers in the public, but they must be eye-watering, absolutely eye-watering, despite how economically frugal this company is when it comes to payment for various employees and services. I'm not saying that they underpay. That's not what I'm trying to suggest. I'm suggesting that the company famously looks at ways of reducing costs, both when they operate as well as building systems that will be more cost competitive than the current legacy launch systems. But even with those priorities in mind, they are throwing away and destroying and operating tons of hardware and resources, fuel, the personnel to be on duty to process and prepare and analyze and control these systems. And they're launching at a very high tempo relative to legacy space providers. So they're going through some cash. Hi, Sci-Fi. Nice to have you here. This is the SpaceX official feed. I am the publisher and editor of AeroSpaceNews.com. I used to work for Flight International, and I used to work for Aviation Week and Space Technology freelance. I've covered in person multiple space shuttle landings at Edwards Air Force Base, and I'm your host. They call me Aero around here. Nice to have you here. So you may not have heard of me because I'm not nearly as well known as other folks, but I've been doing this stuff a very long time, and I'm a pilot myself. Hello, Freddie. Good to see you. Lovely. How are you? Good to see you. Pickled, good to see you. Pariah, good to see you. We're not doing shout outs, by the way, on the science, space, technology videos. When we're covering news, we don't do the streamer shout outy sort of stuff. We don't have any of the alerts running. None of the bots are running. So none of you are being discriminated against, my friends. This is just a different type of content. Pickled, it is not manned. There are no human beings on board this spaceship whatsoever. They expect that this will eventually become a very high tempo, human rated system. They intend to use future variations of this system to go to the moon and to Mars and to do other things in space. But this is a completely uncrewed system flying or attempting to fly today. Elusive, I hope you're feeling better. Hey, Slythe, good to see you, buddy. I hope you're doing well. Freddie, it's lovely to see you. Kiwi, lovely to see you. Bowmaster, very lovely to see you. How are you, my friend? I'm sorry to hear that, Naughty. I hope things improve for you. Fred, I think that on the third attempt, one might give SpaceX engineers the benefit of the doubt. And Master Snake, good to see you over on YouTube. Captain Sam, good to see you over on YouTube. Thank you both for being there. I think that they might have at least sorted out their problems with the upper stage such that assuming the system reaches staging where they first and second stage will separate, I think that we can predict that the chances are better that this one will achieve the mission goals and the Starship will land in the ocean in the vicinity of Australia. I've variously seen it described as the Indian Ocean and near the waters near Australia. So somewhere in that part of the Pacific Ocean or Indian Ocean, it will be coming down. Whether they've got it all sorted or not remains to be seen. With something as complicated as this, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a problem on launch or ascent in the atmosphere or during staging, some new issue that goes wrong. It's the nature of really complicated systems with the sort of power and dynamics that are at play here. There have been airliners that have been flight tested and gone into service, and only after being used on an ongoing basis did core design-based flaws or defects present themselves. So a system like this with the power and vibration and shock loads associated with it, something new could come up and the thing could just explode, on the way going uphill. But I think the chances are decent. This is not from the launch today. I think the chances are decent that they're going to get going into space with the Starship upper stage. I want to emphasize that recovering the super heavy booster is enormously complicated, and one little tiny problem on the super heavy booster, propulsion, guidance, etc., and that thing could slam into the tower and explode. It could be forced to abort and be dropped into the ocean. They are attempting a reflight of that super heavy booster. It has flown already. That's a very big and very new variable. They are reflying 29 of the 33 engines, Raptor engines, on that super heavy. So that introduces potential failure modes that change the calculus completely for whether there's a failure on that side of the column. So we'll see. We'll see. Rogue Pope, how are you? Good to see you, Rogue Pope. Thank you, Candway. I'm catching up with you folks here. Okay, Pickle, glad you're back. Welcome back. Master Snake, it's lovely to see you here on Twitch as well. Back is as bad or same as it's been. Thank you, buddy. I hope you're feeling well. I hope you're doing well and your family is doing well. Beta, good to see you. Beta, I don't know if you heard, we're not doing any of this alerts and shout outs right now, so you're not being slighted, my friend. Alan, good to see you. Same thing. You're not being slighted. Lovely to see you, Alan. Chief Foxtrot, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. Welcome in. Is Amped here as well? Did I miss Amp? Sorry if I did, Amped. Freddie, it's really lovely to see you. Thank you, Bowmaster. I looked at myself in the mirror 2 days ago, and I'm actually profoundly disturbed at how much I've aged recently. I haven't had a day off, literally not had a day away from the desk and work since at least the middle of December. Not a holiday, not a sick day, not a day away. Yes, Freddie. Got a question from Freddie on Twitch about whether or not they've worked out protecting the launch pad. The newer system, that launch table with water deluge system and reinforcements, seem to have, well, it's at least addressed the major damage that they suffered the first time they flew the all-up stack of Starship Super Heavy Booster plus Starship. They seem to be reusing that with minimal repairs and maintenance, relatively speaking, between launch attempts. DB Cooper, it is lovely to see you, my friend. How are you and your family? Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. So we're 6 minutes away. It looks like we're going to get a launch attempt, but you never know. We could still end up with a scrub. I will turn on the audio from the launch, of course, when we are in the last minute of countdown, and then we will definitely be listening to it going forward. Exactly. Hi, Spirit. How are you? Spirit, you lovely person. We're not doing any shout outs right now on the space technology stream. Even the bots turned off just because we're streaming to my other main news YouTube channel. I'm shouting you out, though, in my heart. It's really good to see you, my talented, talented friend. I hope you and your family are well. Oh, DB, it's just nice to have you here. Thank you so much for everything you've done and for being a wonderful member of the community. So, unspoken so far in the river of words I've sent downriver to you, lovely folks, is the fact that SpaceX really, really needs to get on with this program. They have NASA contracts, and despite the fact that they're obviously viewed favorably by the current administration, they are obligated to achieve very important milestones and certification goals in order to fulfill those contracts, and time is rapidly running out. They need to human rate the system. They need to demonstrate in-orbit refueling of the system in order to get anywhere close to executing on their lunar program contract obligations. Time is short. Once again, as a reminder, this spacecraft is powered by Raptor engines. Falcon 9 flies with Merlin engines. The Raptors are next generation, higher performance, and as a result, they are also literally being pushed to the limit on pressures and temperatures and all of the relevant criteria from physics to material science. It's really, really, really asking a lot of these Raptor engines to perform, but they need that to deliver the performance to orbit that they are promising people. Luciff, thanks for being over on YouTube too, my friend. Excellent to have you there, buddy. 33 on the first stage. I think it's 9 on the upper stage, Bowmaster. Nodley asks if there will be consequences if they fail. There might be congressional action, might be. You know, it looks like their customer is going to become the new NASA administrator, which obviously could lead one to conclude that they will be looked upon more favorably. But notwithstanding the favor they find themselves in with the U.S. government at the moment, the U.S. government is really fairly objectively unsatisfied with some of their other options. The legacy provider of United Launch Alliance, it was reported last week, has been getting scolded left, right, and center by the Defense Department, essentially the Air Force or the Space Force, for not moving forward fast enough with their new generation Vulcan rocket and leaving their customer with payloads on the ground that they wish to be flying. So it's a bit like there are not a lot of options. Yeah, the white stuff is just vapor. It's cryogenic fuel, cryogenic elements that are warming and becoming exposed to the atmosphere as they're venting, and as they're exposed to the atmosphere, they're turning into a gas. So you've got methane there, and you've got liquid oxygen as well. Space shuttle, notwithstanding its solid rocket motors, we're about a minute away now, would use liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. This is methane, basically natural gas, and liquid oxygen. Let's I guess I'll just manipulate it over here.
So that we can work through those issues and see if it's something that we need to stand down for.
Okay.
And as Dan mentioned, we will be holding at T-minus 40 seconds, so in about 20 seconds from now.
T-minus 40 seconds, there's a scheduled hold.
There, and they'll work through these final checkouts on, sounds like just one of those Raptors on the first stage on Super Heavy.
Indeed, Kiwi. Lovely to have you here.
We're reflying it for the first time. 29 of those 33 engines have already been used in a launch, one of which has already launched
twice, and we'll go for
it is getting ready for its third
time.
Right. And you just heard our flight director for the day, Joe Sliker. He just shared that we are going to hold at this T-minus 40 second mark. Keep an eye on one of those.
Okay, so they're going to hold at T-minus 40 seconds. We'll just stand by and leave the audio down. Excuse me. My memory is not as bad as I feared. They are reflying 29 engines out of the 33 on the first stage booster. And it was news to me, but one of those engines is apparently flown now twice before. So if they launch today, it'll be going for its third flight. So another variable in the mix to possibly increase the odds of failure here. What I'm struck, as advanced a system as this rocket represents, it's still incredibly primitive. It's basically a highly sophisticated firework or missile, arguably an upside down cannon, where with a cannon you have the projectile and the propellant going in the same direction. This thing has the propellant coming out the bottom, and the projectile moves in the opposite direction. But it's really not very finessed. And I say that because what I'd love to see is something that is a little more routine. And here we go.
T-minus. Delta 1, hit hold.
We did have a hold.
A little. There's a beauty in ordinary and mundane flight activities where things are so reliable and so safe and so predictable and also so efficient that they make commercial sense. Sorry, I'm just watching this clock. I don't want to step on the actual excitement when they pull the trigger, when they decide to light the candle. Xavier, lovely to have you here. Welcome in. Exactly, Freddie. High tech. Given the fact that I can get into muse mode, it would be somewhat helpful to have the ability for you folks to reach out and doink me Say, hey, Aero, then with the clock's going, and me actually notice it right away. I don't want you folks to miss a moment of the actual spectacle. There is somewhat of a time limit on how long they can sit fully fueled like this on the pad. You would not want to touch, my mouse is not visible, you would not want to touch the white parts of that metal with your bare hand. I suspect that it would, your skin would stick. It's very, scientifically, it's really frickin' cold. Absolutely, Jerry. Nice to have you here. Really lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Well, I hope you and your family are just fantastic, my friend. You've seen a Christmas story, you can put your tongue on it? No, you don't want to do that. Exactly, Saxon. Hope you and your family are well, buddy. Yes, it looks like a Eden Frost effect level. Minus 160 degrees or so. That would leave a mark. Is Leighton Frost, forgive my ignorance, folks, is that a video game reference? Or is that actually a scientific term of art that I have never heard because I don't live in a freezing, snowy world? I would love to learn something new. It's science. Nice. We were talking about the inverse square law last night on the stream. Thank you, Solid. For those of you that are here that are new, typically on my my gaming streams, if you're a streamer in particular and you're a nice human being, which just means you're not toxic, we would absolutely shout you out, let folks know about you. I view all of my my fellow streamer friends as colleagues, not competition, and we're happy to spread the word. We're not doing it on this one. I don't even have the bot running on purpose, just to keep the chaos down so we can focus on the science and the history being made, possibly being made today. Solid, thank you for explaining that. Perfectly done. No, it's crappy Starbucks coffee, as a matter of fact. I had to get here several hours early to make this happen after streaming last night. So I'm sleep deprived, but thrilled to be able to hopefully witness history with some of the most wonderful people on this planet. Looking at you all. There we go. Clock's moving.
Here we go.
We saw an issue with that quick disconnect to the ship. There is a chance that automation will kick us out again if we encounter the same issue. But for now, the clock is rolling. We'll see if we pass around that T-minus 10-second mark. Plus 40 seconds, it's one hell of a sight from here. We see it arcing right over top of us. We see 33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit on Super Heavy as it starts to ascend skyward. Coming up on maximum aerodynamic pressure, then only about a minute and a half until we get into hot staging.
Wow, Dan, that was incredible.
The engines are continuing to run, it looks like.
We could feel the building shaking here, feel the vehicle's power.
It's like
And we're just about a minute away from shutting down those engines on the booster. Again, this booster is flying for its second time today.
All right, so hot staging coming up a little under a minute. We're going to see all but the 3 center engines turn off on the booster. So our version of MECO, most engines cut off. And then just a few seconds later, hoping to see 6 engines ignite on ship to push it away.
Quite loud. I didn't want you to miss any of the space stuff. Here, we'll drop the volume a bit.
All right, hot staging, about 30 seconds.
Here we go. This is a major milestone. I hope that sounds better. I figured that between me and the rocket, you want to hear and see the rocket. So I turned the camera off. Here we go.
And definitely keep an eye on which way the booster flips. First ever directional flip we're going for today. Should flip straight up.
Still have 33 operating Raptor engines. That's very
See those engines powering down?
Booster engine cut off.
Look in the lower left-hand corner for an
Ship
indication
ignition.
of which Raptor engines
Stage
are running.
separation.
Incredible flip by Super Heavy booster, and you can see those 6 engines, those 3 engines on the ship ignited.
6 healthy Raptors running on ship, on its way to space. Peek that engine view. Booster doing boost back. Chris, how's it looking over there in Hawthorne, man?
It is looking
Chamber pressure is nominal.
It is looking absolutely incredible here in Hawthorne. As we said, 6 healthy engines on ship. We've got 13 out of 13 engines on the booster. Now down to those 3, which is what we expect in the final moments of the boost back burn. Now, as a reminder, we are not recovering the Super Heavy booster today. We are instead going to do some...
Shutdown.
And there we had a good shutdown of the boost back burn. Next up will be the jettison of that hot stage ring.
Avionics power and telemetry nominal.
Great call out there that everything looking nominal aboard the Super Heavy vehicle, which is returning to Earth, and we're going to be doing some experiments with it, including a higher angle of attack re-entry, as well as some engine tests as it gets closer to the Gulf. We are, again, because of these tests not recovering it, we are sending it to the Gulf on purpose to do those tests. But again, you see the booster on the left-hand side of your screen. You see ship with 6 healthy engines continuing its ascent to its planned suborbital trajectory. Everything going very well so far for Starship's 9th flight. Now 4 minutes, 15 seconds in. Great views from inside of the aft engine area of ship there, looking at those 3 sea level and 3 Raptor engines on the right-hand side of your screen. The booster doing its LOX dump, that liquid oxygen dump. So because we don't need some of that liquid oxygen propellant in its tanks, we vent that propellant out to lessen the booster's mass as it comes in for its landing. Just absolutely gorgeous views watching these 2 vehicles do their respective things in the skies over Texas here today. And Dan, we're approaching the 5-minute mark into the flight. Super Heavy is descending rapidly. What can we expect here in the next few minutes as it does its atmospheric tests?
Yeah, now as we had talked about, Super Heavy might not have a very smooth ride down. We're going to be putting it through this higher angle of attack. So we're kind of pitching it up a tiny bit, increasing drag. We've done this in wind tunnels. We've done this in computer modeling. It shows that sometimes the control isn't great, but only one way to really prove it out, and that's to get real-world data. So here comes Super Heavy.
Watch the engine start.
It should be igniting for its landing burn in just about 40 seconds from now.
Not catching it.
And we are going to relight 13 engines, then bring that down to 3 engines. As we talked about earlier, we will be intentionally shutting down. We will be shutting down one of those 3 center engines intentionally to push the limits of the Super Heavy booster.
Ship Raptor, chamber pressure is nominal.
And continuing to see 6 healthy engines on the ship, 3 sea level and 3 vacuum engines still ignited as the Super Heavy booster is making its way back down to Earth.
We can see those grid fins doing some heavy work.
Booster landing startup.
Ignited for our landing burn.
The greatest footage here.
It may have ended with that landing burn. Does look like we lost telemetry from the booster once we started into that landing burn.
So the Super Heavy appears to have
Did you see confirmation that the booster did demise? So the booster's flight ending before it was able to get through landing burn, but again, we were not bringing that back. We were expecting it to make a hard splashdown in the Gulf. We were getting live data back the entire time through that high angle of attack flight, so that was something that was really vital for us to get during this reuse. First free flight of booster in the books. All right, ship has about 2 minutes left.
In about 2 minutes, we expect all 6 Raptor engines to shut down. That will be SECO.
So let's talk for a minute about what we're looking at here.
And these are some incredible views, Dan, from the aft end of the ship. Watching as the engines
Black Noir, nice to have you here. Welcome in. So,
as always,
notice those engine shapes on the Starship upper stage there. Some of the nozzles are quite large and some are quite narrow.
But all right,
the difference is if they give us a shot back inside, that there's 2 flavors, if you will, of pretty much all rocket engines that are intended to go to space. There we go. Wide bells, wide nozzles, and the narrow ones in the middle. The wide ones are for vacuum flight in the vacuum of space to maximize performance, where the narrow ones have their bell shape optimized for performance in the Earth's atmosphere. So you'll hear them reference vacuum engines. The vacuum engines are the big, fat, wide bells, and they're a very different. They're the same core engine, but the nozzle shape is different. Exactly, Saxon.
See shutdown of the Raptor engines.
Okay. So let's turn the audio pretty much all the way down here. We'll put a camera back on. It's probably not going to be set correctly because Windows is really misbehaving. It just keeps forgetting the settings on the gain. For some reason, they just reset every time the camera is turned off. It's annoying me to a great extent. All right, there you go. So, settle down, Bo. At T plus 616, the booster blew up. Thank you, Busta. For all intents and purposes, can we? It is, in fact, the same everything except for the bell. That's necessary. I would imagine there are some part number differences and some other distinctions besides just ordering the vacuum bell from the factory, so to speak. They make them themselves, so it's not like they're going to be ordering them on Amazon. The entire reason for doing that is to minimize parts counts and variability and cost. So to the maximum extent possible, everything from the nozzle forward, everything is supposed to be essentially identical. They're obviously controlled by different flight control software. The software knows whether they're dealing with a vacuum engine and its performance or an atmospheric engine. And the goal of this upper stage is to fly to space, to orbit, and then fly back and land, presumably to be caught by the giant chopstick arms. So it needs both of those engine types to be functioning. You'll notice that they're actually not running when neither of the engines are running in the Earth's atmosphere. It's only after stage separation that the rocket engines fire up, and they fire all 6, as we saw in the graphic. This graphic right here, this is the engine run indicator. There was one behind me. I'm glad I turned off my camera. There was one down in this corner over here. There's only speed and altitude over there now. This is the attitude of the spacecraft, by the way, more or less indicating its attitude. But the little tiny ones here are the atmosphere engines, and then these wide circles represent the vacuum Raptor engines. So when they fire them up again, if they fire them up again, they're going to be turning white. And pretty much all the stuff you see going on here, this is either vapor venting or it's thruster firing. Memory serves, they use, to the extent that they can, cold gassed thrusters. This is interesting. Wonder why the graphic turned this way. There's particles venting here. Oh, look at that. Look at that shadow. That's extraordinary. A cold gas thruster is a bit like canned air. And you notice if you hold your finger down on the canned air can, the can will get cold as that refrigerant or the gas inside under great pressure is escaping. I'm not saying they're using the same material, propellant. I'm saying it's kind of a relatively similar phenomenon. Local Extreme, it's going to try and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere under control. They're going to be testing a variety of different things, including upgrades to the heat shield and the heat protection system, the little black squares you see down here, for example. And they're going to set it down, if things go according to plan, in the ocean somewhere offshore of Australia. They used to call it landing in the Indian Ocean. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't seen public explanation of why they've changed the description of where they're putting the Starship down. But there's nobody on board. They basically want to try and make sure that they've shown themselves that they've got their explosion and fire problem solved, that they have successfully solved their thermal protection system challenges, and they can set it down, fly it and set it down where they say they're going to. It's going to be in less than an hour. Basically, it's flying around the world once. And before it even gets all the way around the world, it's going to be sent into the atmosphere. Thank you, Saxon. Sure, Black Noir. Yes, it did, can we? It's absolutely made it past the point that it failed last time, but something new failed this time. So Black Noir, this is the 9th test flight of the SpaceX manufactured Starship rocket system, or space transportation system. That consists of two rockets. That's why I called it a system. There's something called the Super Heavy booster, which is the first stage, and there is the Starship upper stage, which is what we're looking at right now. The Super Heavy booster and the Starship upper stage are both supposed to be, when they are in operation, completely reusable. This is a look inside the cargo compartment. That's pretty wild. That's what zero G does to your dust and debris, by the way. Although those look like little pieces of frozen material. I don't believe that's a tank. I believe that's the cargo compartment with a dummy payload. Yeah, no, but no, it doesn't. Hi, Thurback, how are you? So Black Noir, this system will eventually, if it's approved, if it's certified, it will eventually be certified to carry people, and has NASA contracts right now to pursue the flights to the moon and putting people down on the moon and cargo and bring them home again, bring them back to Earth. And this is the beginnings of that effort to certify and approve this system. This early stage in the program, there's nobody on board. They've been working out some very significant problems that they've had with the system, and this is another test flight in pursuit of that goal. Those would all be dummy satellites. There are not going to be any actual commercial or operational payloads except for the sensors and the telemetry for testing that they would have installed on board. Yes, and well, slightly later variations of this, would be what I mean. There's no human life support systems on board this thing right now. For example, no temperature controls, no crew compartments, no seating, no flight controls, no nothing. So basically, they're test flying the shell of the system. Can we get the machinery up and back to and from space? And then they will do the build out. It's almost like you bought a trailer and you wanted to have a custom RV built. You buy the empty shell of the trailer. That's kind of what they're driving around right now and testing. And then you could send it to somebody to finish and put in, the luxury interior that you need. They're going to put in their own interior, to be clear. I'm just trying to come up with an analogy here. Thurback, you're not being ignored on the shout-outs, by the way, my friend. We've got the bot turned off. When we do the science technology streams like this, I'm shouting you out in my heart. We're not shouting out anybody during this stream, my friend. It's good to see you. I hope you and your family are well. It wouldn't surprise me if they had some cryogenic like buildup. When you build something like this operationally, just like you might have on your automobile's air conditioner, you could see freeze developing on it. So when you stop on a hot day, you see that condensation on the outside of the heat exchanger or the compressor, wherever the part is that gets cold, beginning to drip off the ice onto the ground. Airliners have this happen, your car, ships, etc., but it's behind insulation and out of sight from you normally. But this is essentially an empty shell. And so there might be systems exposed inside here that have cold-facing surfaces, and as they're moving around and there's vibrations, it's breaking off ice particles, and they're in essentially zero G. It's probably microgravity, not zero G, and stuff is floating around. No, I did. I'm just letting you know, Thurback. I didn't think you were farming yet. So I now realize what we're looking at down here. This is our flight following map. This is telling us our location. And since the engines weren't firing, I switched to it. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces in a tired old man's brain when we're doing these live streams. And I have not seen them change to this before, so I was unfamiliar. The UI was unfamiliar to me. So here's where we are over the Earth. Thurback, I don't know if you've ever done this in an airplane, but if you have, you can back me up. Seeing all this debris reminds me of a time when I pulled negative G's in a Cessna 150. I was a student pilot. I had just flown to the Mojave Airport for lunch. I'm sorry, I had just flown to California City for lunch. Why would I fly to California City for lunch? Because the airport there, if you were a student pilot and you showed your logbook, would comp your lunch. And I was a very broke student pilot. So having done that, I then flew to Mojave, which is the real purpose of the trip, although it was nice getting free food. At Mojave, which was a very different airport than it is now, I got out and walked around on the flight line and looked at all the amazing aircraft there, which I could do back in those days. And then I got into the airplane to fly back to my home airport. Huge airport, huge runway. And so in the rented Cessna 150, here you're gonna laugh at this. In my rented Cessna 150, I had already been learning to fly cross-country air races in stock airplanes. So you don't fly a high-performance airplane; you have to fly a completely stock airplane. But what you do is fly it in a way that's legal, but maximizes your performance versus your specific type handicap. So it's about cleaning the airplane, waxing it, making it as slippery as possible, climbing the least extent necessary to safely fly the route you've got to fly. But you tended to fly at low altitude over unpopulated areas and make aggressive turns and things like that. It was still pretty fun, even though you're flying a store-bought airplane. So I had this in mind, and being a 16-year-old, I take off in the 150, and I push the nose over to build up speed. Cessna 150, for those of you that don't know, is practically the Yugo of flight training airplanes. There is no speed. It is underpowered. It is a training aircraft for completely new pilots. So nothing happens very quickly compared to other airplanes. But to me, at 16, it was still very exciting. Lift off, push the nose over. So at very low altitude, right over the runway. So this is a perfectly safe place to do this. But I didn't just like slowly climb out. I pushed the nose over to build up speed. I then did a bit of a zoom climb. And there's nobody anywhere near me. The airport is a sleepy little place. There's no space activities up there in those days. I do a zoom climb with my built up speed, and then I push the nose over. And as I push the nose over, I experienced briefly negative G. Yeah. Now, to tell you how different a time this was, it hadn't dawned on me that some prior renter of this aircraft might be a cigarette smoker. Today, it's almost inconceivable that you would get into a rental airplane in America and there would be cigarette ashes in the ashtray. Now, do you see why this might be related to the video we've been watching? Unfortunately, I did follow a smoker this time, and when I pushed over, the ashtray, which was closable, happened to be open. It was like it pivoted like a partial triangle out from the panel. And when I pulled the negative G's, everything in the ashtray went up and instantly atomized. Basically, it hit the roof and turned into a giant cloud of cigarette ash. Adventures in teenage student pilot days. Yeah. Also, the other seatbelt came loose. I mean, it was definitely negative G pushover. The crap went everywhere. There was probably chewing gum and other crap too, but the cigarette ashes were a real, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Honest to God, I think that nobody noticed when I came back. I have no recollection of there being anything punitive or even said about it, but it left an impression on me. It left an impression on me. It's like, oh my gosh. You forget what things that are loose until you pull a negative G's. Good soup. Exactly, Slythe. That was annoying. It just uncommanded went to maximum volume. XZRO, thank you for being over on YouTube. I'm sorry I had a panel up there. I missed your comments. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Thurback, the ads on Twitch should not be longer than 30 seconds. And they should be reasonably spaced out. But yeah, I smelled like a pack of cigarettes there for the rest of that day. Stupid teenager tricks. But it was just incredible cloud. So this will be, well, look at the attitude of the spacecraft. No, that's the Earth, Thurback. It seems to be going slower than I would expect. Last time it came down at about the 50-minute mark, 45, 50-minute mark, if I remember correctly. Exactly, Saxon. It's all about saving costs. So, folks that are watching, how many of you missed the story there about the takeoff and what happened in the airplane? If you did miss it, I'm happy to retell it, or at least fill in the blanks. Hi, Keeman. How are you? Yeah, they're changing the orientation. Nano, buenos dias, mi amigo. ¿Cómo estás? Hi, TM. Cessna 150. TM, the Super Heavy booster exploded about 6 minutes and changed after the launch. It had successfully passed stage separation and was testing some extreme conditions. They had no intention of bringing it back to the chopsticks. They were going to put it in the ocean from day one or from moment one on the launch. But before it got to the point of a controlled impact with the water, it exploded for some reason. But the upper stage is progressing on to its next mission objective and seems to be relatively nominal so far. Hi, Grumpy. Good to see you. So what happened during that airplane flight, for those of you that were seeing ads, I'm sorry, was after building up speed, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the feed here real fast. This color could mean that they're facing orbital sunset or sunrise, or they're actually not in orbit, but space sunrise, sunset, or they're beginning reentry and they're starting to experience the heating that leads to plasma production, etc. It looks like we're at, let's take a listen. There's music there. That's one of the reasons why I can't play this. Can't play it, there's music. They are changing the orientation, and this is partially to test controllability as well as the performance of the thermal protection systems as they're exposed to different loads, because they have to understand how well the system performs, not only when things are going to plan, but when they go off nominal, when they go off course. Like, what are the limits of the system's survivability and durability? That color looks like it's coming from regular sunlight and the time of day. Z, yes, there. It's not wobbling so much as being pointed in different directions. He's ready for the monkeys inside. Black Duke. Hello, Aviator. How are you and your family, my friend? Thank you, Elusive. So the altitude, let's keep an eye on that. That has not changed, nor has the speed significantly. It looks like, no, okay, we've just dropped a kilometer. Speed continues to rise. But I believe that this is going to be over in the next 20 minutes, one way or the other. Good to hear. Yes, how are you? Nice. I didn't realize you were an avionics tech. Nice. An hour from now, can we, or a total hour for the flight? Yeah, okay. Well, I said about 20 minutes, so not too far up. Thank you, can we? It's really good to see you here, my friend. I hope you and your family are doing well. Yep, altitude's coming down. It was 165, I think, when we started tracking it. Look at the light. If you've ever wondered why a knucklehead like Aero enjoys air-to-air photography, it's because at sunrise and sunset in the sky, you get the best light on Earth. Well, or above the Earth. Black Duke is a pilot, Thurback is a pilot. They can confirm. When you're flying, you see amazing, amazing things. Thank you, can't we? It was 171 the max. Yeah, I hadn't been tracking it, Nato. They keep changing the display graphics, the UI information there. And they're not doing this routinely enough that I've become habituated to it. So the Kármán line, the edge of space, the thing that that people are supposed to fly above in order to become astronauts, that's 100 kilometers, and we're sitting at 150 right now. Acacia said it should last no longer than 30 seconds. Xavier, this is a test flight, and the loss of the Super Heavy booster, when it was lost, was accidental, but they had never planned to recover it. They were planning on it going into the ocean and not landing. This is intended to go into the ocean if they re-enter successfully and it doesn't self-destruct. They don't plan on recovering. They don't plan on recovering it for reuse. Apparently, they went and got some of the parts and pieces of, I think, both of these vehicles with deep sea ocean recovery technology, but that was just to be able to look at the parts and examine them, not for reflight. Solid, you heard that this vehicle has lost altitude control and are losing propellant. I had the audio off because we can't listen to their music. Let's see if we got any updates.
Also, at this point, we are kind of in a spin, and we are also going to be skipping that Raptor relight. If you've followed through the history of Starship, something similar happened, different cause, but same symptom back on Flight 3, where we weren't able to maintain attitude control in orbit. And so we're going to skip the relight of that Raptor engine while we're in space. We are going to still proceed with entry, but as we are not able to control the attitude of the ship, as we get into entry, it will enter in whatever orientation it is in at the time, which does not bode well for the ship's heat shield, as we're not going to be essentially aligned the way that we want to do for reentry. So it is definitely coming down. It is definitely heading to the Indian Ocean, but our chances of making it all the way down are pretty slim. So we'll still get as much data as we can. We're still getting live telemetry, live views from Starlink the entire time.
Visuals.
And we'll continue to stick with ship as it
this
continues
is a double
on.
failure
we
for
are
them
about 10 minutes away
failures.
or so until we start getting into entry.
But this thing is going to come apart if they can maintain the video feed
as we cross the
with
Indian Ocean,
some
and we'll start to see a little bit more daylight, and we'll, as always, as long as we maintain that comm link, get some plasma on the way in and start to bring the Starship back through the Earth's atmosphere. So that coming up in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll check back in with everybody in a little bit.
See, here's the music I was telling you about. I have to turn that off. Saxon, that's a fair point. That's a fair comment. But they have not achieved their goal, that's for sure. This is going to look like some crazy sci-fi stuff. As long as we get a video feed, this is going to look amazing. XZ over on YouTube, again, thank you for hanging out, my friend. So I don't know if you heard and understood all that, but basically the spacecraft is no directional control. It's going to come down out of control, and we're going to be able to watch the pictures as long as they've got telemetry or radio contact with the spacecraft. And they're not going to achieve their primary mission objectives on this flight. And you ask about the deploy point. There was no deploy point other than the stage separation back offshore Texas. I'm not sure what you meant by deploy. Like they didn't put any satellites out or anything else. Yeah, there's definitely going to be lessons learned. Keep in mind, this design, this all-metal design, all metal, not 100%, obviously. People have never, in the modern era, built anything like this. These visuals are going to be crazy. And folks said it could not and should not be done. SpaceX has persisted. I don't mean to suggest that that's the reason why they're having these difficulties. There's another venting going on in the upper left-hand corner of this view, like right over here. I don't know if my mouse is visible or not. We're down now to 112 kilometers. Look at this view. My God. If I turn off the webcam, would you rather look at this without my face? Well, carbon line is only at 100 kilometers, and they're still above that. But there's definitely particles up there. This is not vacuum, obviously. It's running into things. Thanks, Busta. As you can tell from the quality of the lettering on the UI down there, we're getting the sharpest feed we can get out of SpaceX. So any lack of resolution on the space feed itself is due to the quality of the telemetry. And to give SpaceX their due here, this is, I believe, telemetry coming from Starlink. The fact that it works at all is kind of a miracle. Especially considering the fact that the vehicle is apparently tumbling out of control. So the antennas are not maintaining a fixed orientation to receivers. Although they do have multiple antennas on the vehicle transmitting. As the Super Heavy came down, I don't know if you folks noticed it, but prior to the point where it experienced the RUD, it went through a moment of very high atmospheric heating, and there was a extraordinary amount of glowing hot metal in the engine compartment. I don't know whether that's expected behavior. I don't know whether that contributed to the failure that Super Heavy experienced or not, but it struck me at the time. It's like, that looks like it got really, really hot in there. Exactly, Acacius. I think the SpaceX commentators actually do a pretty decent job. And these are, I know the person on the right is an actual engineer. I think the guy on the left is also an engineer, but they're not trained broadcasters or stream hosts. But everybody that they rotate through tends to do a pretty good job. I don't know whether we've lost the signal completely or not. The altitude is continuing to fall, so they're getting some data from the telemetry. We'll give it a bit longer. I trust. No, they reflew the Super Heavy, and they reflew 29 engines, one of which had reflown twice before. So this was its third flight, but they didn't actually capture it. So that one, and it blew up. So that one will definitely not be flying again, either the engines or the Super Heavy booster. It's dropping pretty fast. Speed is still pretty darn high. Let's see if they cut back. I like how stable that bird was that flew through the back of their frame. Yeah, they may have. Oh, here we go. Siri, what is an inferno? Extraordinary. My God. I mess around with visual effects, in my animation work. And you spend time imagining look at the melting metal here. Look at the melting. It just failed. This is spectacular. I just want to remind everyone that they plan on eventually, when they certify this, putting people on this machine. And if things don't go according to plan, this is going to happen with people on board. Space is very difficult and very dangerous. There's a reason that human-rated systems have been shaped like and come back like the half of a cannonball. Because when you just have a simple half dome that you're shooting at the atmosphere and the reentry interface, it is a lot less complicated to keep the squishy, meaty bits inside safe. When you have sticky outy bits, like you have on something like Starship, and it's doing a belly flop landing, if things don't go exactly according to plan, you end up with a lot of molten metal. It looks like they've gotten rid of the UI. See, can we? I said it was going to be about another 20 minutes. I think they may have lost the vehicle, or they've lost the telemetry. Yeah, Pikachu. I think perhaps they may have lost, or at least they've lost the signal. At a time when there's an extraordinary amount of debris in space, it looks like at least this whole thing is coming down, and it's not going to result in dangerous, tiny, high-speed particles, metal shards, and the like floating around in low Earth orbit. I was working on a video about a year ago, and I really need to finish it. Before I started really animating a lot in Unreal Engine, I was doing it in After Effects about the problem of space debris. One of the wonderful streamers here on Twitch was kind enough to actually help me with some retro footage, which I'd still love to put in a video. But basically, what we're doing is creating an environment around our planet that's akin to the old video game Frogger. There's so much stuff going by, getting past it and get in the popular lanes, if you will, to get to where we need to go with uncrewed payloads as well as with human spaceflight is going to be increasingly like a round of Frogger. Let's see what they've got to say here.
Ship continued 6 healthy Raptor engines in the beginning of its flight, making it all the way to SECO and coasting for quite a while. We made it to the expected time that we would open up the payload door. Unfortunately, the door did not open as we expected it to, so we did not deploy the 8 Starlink satellites.
That's what they were talking about.
We ran into a couple of issues once Ship got there, but I can tell you it was a pretty crazy moment for a lot of the people that were standing here for Ship to make it there. It's been a couple of flights, but it was really exciting to see. Ran into some issues on orbit. We weren't able to deploy the Starlinks. We eventually lost attitude control.
I did not know they were planning on trying to deploy any Starlinks.
That ship.
was a question we got
did lose
earlier,
attitude
and I
control.
was
And
wrong
just
about
to
that.
confirm,
I apologize.
We did lose contact with the ship officially a couple of minutes ago, so that brings an end to the 9th flight
That's why we were
test.
looking
So,
at inside the payload
still
bay.
a lot of work
Those
to do.
did not look like real
but
Starlinks
really
to me.
big moment.
My
Chris,
bad. I was wrong.
how's everybody doing over there in Hawthorne? What's the vibes, man?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's
Okay. Yeah, real satellites. I was wrong. Yeah, XZ. I don't think that they even had control of it such that they could send the self-destruct signal, but I could be wrong about that as well. I think it just came apart on its own as it went through the final stages of the reentry interface. You were about the monkeys. I missed your comment about the monkeys. Freddie, you're absolutely right. But I was wrong about that. There are people that only cover SpaceX and that know every little detail, including about the Starship launches. I cover a wide variety of subjects, from airline accidents to SpaceX, including occasionally things that relate to cosmology and astrophysics, not cosmetology and not astrology. Cosmology and astrophysics. So I was unaware of the fact that they were planning on an attempt to launch real Starlink satellites, and I apologize for getting that wrong. Yeah, it was coming down, can we, such that it was not going to be breaking up into little space parts. Yep. Well, it was history, folks. It was definitely history. Another here. Let's see. Well, I'm going to go to this screen, and let's see if I've got this back here. Hey, those things are going to fire off now. How's that for a background? You're quite welcome, can we? You're quite welcome, my friend. Let me close this. Move this over here. These are auto shout outs for all of my wonderful friends who are streamers. Those are going to fire off. Nano Pyro will not fire off. These were set up in a legacy system from before. I did that, and I did both of those animations over there, and actually I did the animation of the moon too. No, that's a nebula I created in Adobe After Effects and using Trapcode Particular. The same thing was used to create the little exploding Eye of Sauron thing, but obviously with a different aesthetic goal. This is the Aero Nebula. There you go. So, to wrap up this non-traditional Twitch stream for me, SpaceX has just completed its 9th test flight of the Starship system, and the TLDR is that the Super Heavy booster got its work done to get the Starship into space. During the landing approach portion of its flight, something went wrong, and it experienced a rapid unscheduled disassembly, or RUD. They never intended to catch it with the chopstick arms. It was always going in the ocean. Excuse me. And the parts that remained are in the ocean. Starship, for its part, got to space, did not go to orbit, was never intended to go to orbit. I learned that it was going to attempt an opening of the cargo bay door, HAL, and deploy some real Starlink satellites. The door didn't open. That didn't go according to plan, despite long and very interesting views into the cargo compartment and lots of stuff floating around there. Not the satellites, but little bits of ice particles and other debris. And then something else went wrong with Starship, and they lost directional control of it. And it came down into the atmosphere and basically came apart as it was experiencing the thermo and dynamic forces of an uncontrolled reentry with its unique and distinct shape. So some mission objectives achieved, others not so much. If you enjoyed that coverage of Starship test flight, because I'm going to edit this for YouTube for an archive. If you enjoyed that coverage of SpaceX, if you enjoyed that coverage of the SpaceX Starship Test Flight 9, you might enjoy this video as well. Thank you very much for watching. And if you think I've earned it, please hit the subscribe button and even leave a comment. What do you think? Are they going to succeed next time? Thanks. So my friends, I'm not done. That's okay, Trust. Yeah, my pleasure, everybody. I'm just going to cut this up and put an archive version of it on YouTube that's a little more organized and sort of the best of. So that's why I recorded that. Trust, you don't nothing to apologize for at all, my friend. I still am not running the other bots, so still not doing the shout-outy stuff. Thank you, XZ. Very kind of you. Very, very kind of you. I will put together like a highlight reel, as I say, on YouTube, XZ. I will plan on covering and be better informed about Test Flight 10 when it comes along. And I'm sure they're going to try to do that very quickly. The FAA will most likely be demanding a mishap investigation, considering that the vehicles were both lost before the completion of their missions. Sleep, Slythe. Have a great sleep. You take care. C-Lab, good to see you. Be well. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you, Chief. Lovely to see you here. Nato, no wows. It's a work night. Wows are Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, although that'll probably change at some point as we begin to substitute in some other games and see how things are going. Possibly, Freddie, maybe a shorter interval given, the national political climate. But 2 to 3 months would be reasonable. Would be a reasonable number. And Trust, SLS, I don't have any updates for you. I'm sorry, I saw your question. I don't have any updates for you on SLS. I think they will be flying that system at least one more time. There's a lot of money and a lot of hardware there, but they're clearly looking to get rid of that program and those costs as quickly as possible. Elko, 10 million. That's not even a drop in the bucket. It's much more than that. Much more than that. Ronan, good to see you. How are you, my friend? How's your family? Other than some back problems and not getting any rest and recreation, I'm doing okay. It's really good to see you. How are you? Can we, blessings upon your house, my friend. Be well. Thank you for being here. You made my day, bud. We need to catch up at some point. Patience. That's borderline political, but I will allow, because you're probably not wrong. You're probably not wrong. So, folks, do you think they're going to succeed next time while we're chatting? And then I'll wrap things up. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to my wonderful mods for showing up for this unscheduled stream. Bowmaster is here, and Elusive Spider is here. The other wonderful mods in no particular order: Gev, Cassius, Me Nasty, and Captain Sam Ransom. I got the best mod team on all of Twitch, and I'm incredibly grateful for them. Busy in real life. Family's all good. I'm glad to hear that. Occasionally, I did not realize that you probably told me, and I probably missed it. I'm sorry that you're in avionics. That's very cool. Also, I hope you achieve your goal, my friend. I hope you achieve your goal and get to the moon. Oh yeah, lots of cost. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in a number that I have memorized, but just for perspective, there are business jets that VIPs fly around in that cost quite a bit more than $10 million that don't go to space. So, yeah, 747. I believe they said that the Qatari 747 was worth several $100 million in an executive configuration. That was a fairly expensive one, given what was what had been installed aboard. So, yeah, very, very pricey. The key to, hey, Adam, very kind of you. We're just wrapping up a science technology stream, but very kind of you. Our bot is off for the science and technology stream, so we're not doing the normal shout out stuff. I don't know whether I can do it just through Twitch. We'll try. Doesn't look like it's going to let me do it. Well, maybe it will. There you go. Nautilus, I'll be streaming, not tonight, Wednesday, Thursday, coming up. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. Okay, that's what we were doing, Adam. Really nice of you to stop by. Please, folks, consider dropping a follow. As his name suggests, first responder, right? First responder. I think I met you and Totster at roughly at the same time. You're both. Are you ex-LEO or active still? Oh, no, not at all, Nodley. I don't know up from down anymore, my friend. I really appreciate the rate. Former LEO and Army vet. Thank you for your service. Yeah, because I met you and Totster at roughly the same time, right? I think we got to know each other right around then. Thank you for all you've done. Yeah, thank you for all the holidays and all the times you've been out on birthdays and in miserable weather and doing your job and trying to keep the public safe. Folks don't get enough appreciation. On my way in here today, in fact, I was in a parking lot and trying to make my way to the driveway back to the street, and there was a local first responder, LEO, in a marked car, and that looked like they were trying to get to the same driveway, and they were slightly distracted. We had to make eye contact. I'm always a respectful driver, as long as I'm treated with respect, of course. And I didn't want to cut them off, but I also, they looked like they were looking at their display. And we finally made eye contact, and we're kind of doing this, and he's waving, and I'm waving. I'm like, okay, thank you. Anyway, he let me go ahead of him. Yeah, definitely not the kind of person, though, that you want to get cut off. So, folks, anybody guessing? You think test flight 10, will they succeed? Before we go, they're going to try this again, the same system. Anybody hazard it? No? Trust thinks no. Okay. Anybody else before I weigh in? Oh, there's actually an ad running. Black Duke says no. Okay, so I asked the question during the ad, does anybody think that they're going to succeed on the next test flight 10, with all their objectives? We've got 2 no's. Adam says they're getting better and better. arguably, you're correct. Yep, version 2 ship. Third failure of the version 2 upper stage, though. Different failure, but third failure, which is kind of unusual for them. There is a non-zero chance that IFT-10 will be a success. Saxon, that is a qualified statement. Elko says they will if they don't at least get closer. A lot of optimism. And XZ over on YouTube says no, does not think they're going to succeed. Acacia says they're going to go further at the very least. Yeah, they are so far behind XZ. You're 100% right. There's a lot of pressure on them right now to get some successes. Well, one of the things that they seem to be doing, and this is something that anybody who's ever done troubleshooting knows about, and if we're doing these for ourselves, it's really hard to resist the temptation, is that they keep, XZ on YouTube said it this way, they keep adding more objectives. When you have a problem, it's really bad practice to change 3 things to try and troubleshoot and find the problem. It's really important to change, assuming you don't know for sure that all 3 things combined didn't cause your problem, if you know what I mean. If you're trying to troubleshoot it, you change the one thing and then do the test and see whether or not you've got yourself sorted. And it does sort of feel like before they've completely validated that they've understood the problem, for example, in the engine bay, they've been changing and adjusting and doing other things. So they've got new variables instead of just ticking off the items on the checklist. Am I making any sense to anybody here? I was troubleshooting something. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, if you've ever had a car or a boat or something like that you're trying to, sort out like it's running rough. Is it ignition? Is it fuel? So do I change all the spark plugs and see whether that fixes everything? Do I change my spark plug leads? Do I change my distributor cap or contacts? That kind of stuff. And you by the process of elimination, you don't make it more variable. Exactly. That's what it feels kind of like they keep doing, because they've got now this new upper stage, third flight of the upper stage. They changed, though, the flight profile and the goals of the Super Heavy booster. Instead of trying to just simply wash, rinse, and repeat and catch it again successfully, while changing while reflying 29 engines, one of those 29 engines was reflown 3 times. I think it would have been really good to have gotten just another nominal Super Heavy flight and been successful at it, and then had that as a really solid piece of data to reference. But they went and they changed a bunch of stuff on that. Maybe they got their objectives met by learning that it blew up, or maybe not. But the upper stage itself also seems to just have like lots of dice rolled. I was trying to solve. I'm using a system. I don't know if my mouse is, it's not going to capture. I'm using particle systems in Unreal Engine that are similar to the ones that make those Nebula and that animated IS-Sauron thing, to make a jet heat exhaust for an animation. And I was having problems with it. And you have to make one change, do the render, and see whether you've sorted it. You can't change like 10 settings and understand whether or not you've tracked down the problem. I've been through this recently. It's maddening because the renders take like an hour. So the computer is basically locked up doing that. You can't really do any other graphic stuff, in other words, at the time, where I can't stream and do video games. But it's the process of elimination that gets you to the solution. Change the blinker fluid to synthetic for success. There you go. The blinker fluid. That's the first time I've ever heard of blinker fluid. Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly, Adam. Yep. PC issues. Yeah, you wanna get to a solution, you wanna rush ahead and get it done and move on, but it oftentimes is less efficient to do it that way. Quality. Hi, Devra. We're not doing the regular shout outs, but the bot's not even running right now since it's a science technology stream. Devra, I hope you're well though. And folks, you could click on Devra's name and you could drop him a follow. And I'm not your real dad, but I think you should do that. Devra's a good dude. Is it free range organic blinker fluid? Oh, I literally have never heard of it before. There's a wonderful song by, oh my God, Alan Jackson, the car mechanic song, where the car mechanic's trying to, take advantage of a city slicker. Yep. Have you changed your water and all that kind of jazz? Okay, I'm going to get back to actually doing animation and business stuff. I dragged my carcass, what's left of it, in here, so I could spend a little bit of time sharing this bit of history with all of you absolutely amazing, wonderful folks. Adam, thanks again for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. If you, I am called Aero for a reason. I do cover aviation and space, kind of professionally, semi-professionally, you might say. Although you in the audience in the community might argue with that definition. So come back, hit the follow button if you feel like it, please. Watch out for the dihydrogen monoxide, the water. Thank you, Nodley. It's always lovely having you here. Mip, good to see you. How are you, my friend? How's your family? But I'm gonna wrap it there. And I'll be back on Wednesday night with a World of Warship stream, most likely. And say, oh my God, Adam. Adam, I had no expectation. Whoa, Adam, very kind of you. Thank you. Absolutely. Well, these things are working. Thank you so much, buddy. That's really nice of you. A finger rud. Adam, zero expectations. Thank you very much. That's extraordinarily nice of you. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. My science and technology streams are infrequent and usually not very profitable. Thank you for making a difference. I'm really grateful. It's not a Tiger 59 only stream, Dira. Busta, I have the original Kerbal. I have never run it. It's actually installed. I've never run it, though. I would like to do that. Would people watch? I'm looking for alternatives to World of Warships. Looking at War Thunder, Star Citizen, Kerbal Space Program, Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've looked at the audience sizes, and the only ones that are really going to have a chance of pulling in a decent audience, assuming anybody likes me, is War Thunder, Air, Star Citizen. The rest of them are actually less popular than World of Warships. Oh, I'm definitely not doing naval. It would be aviation only. You did have one self-destruct while I worked at Vandenberg. It was a big orange cloud way above the base. Yikes. They just launched a Minuteman missile out of, I think it was Minuteman. They launched a missile out of Vandy in the last week. Thank you, Coop DB. I appreciate it. A Kerbal stream. I don't have the new one. I only have the OG one. But I'm willing to explore that. Absolutely willing to explore that. I'm also I've been dabbling a little bit in the Unreal Engine for Fortnite authoring tool, and I might be able to get to the point where I could be developing or playtesting. Definitely not original-looking Fortnite games. It would be very different than regular Fortnite. It would be stuff either related to my sci-fi series or maybe even some other gameplay ideas I've come up with. And it's the kind of thing where if it's approved for release by Epic, we could be actually all playing it together. It would be just sharing the island information and the experience. I've got some ideas that you folks might enjoy joining me on, which would be a lot of fun. But Kerbal is something I've kept on the machine because I'm definitely interested in it. Oh yeah, SpaceX has been increasing their tempo out of Vandy, and they just I think they just got an approval to increase it even further. Although some of the state authorities are none too happy, and some of the neighbors as well. I'm not a neighbor of Vandenberg, but I'm in Southern California, and at least on 2 occasions, I've been able to walk outside at the office and see the rocket going up, Falcon going up, and I saw one from the road as I was driving in the wee hours of the morning too. Alan, you legend. I would, yeah. Part of the problem is starting something and not knowing how to play it, and feeling like I'm boring people in chat. Cassius, I'd be open to meeting up with you for sure. Yeah, probably the same timing, DB, like when maybe Epic released it right after the 2 version came out and they were selling that. I just grabbed it and I did have the installer run, but I've never run it. I've never run the game, the software itself. Do you, Busta? Nice. No wonder you're up when I'm streaming. I don't have any of the packs. I don't have any of the specialty things, but yeah, maybe we should be looking at Kerbal. We could even meet at an airport, Acacius, and take a stroll. Especially, I didn't realize, like I said, you're an avionics tech. That's we can talk about the hardware stuff, and yeah. And you're in the San Gabriel Valley. Oh, neat. You probably have some clear skies out there. In other words, a little bit less light pollution, Busta. I'm closer to the coastline, so there's an awful lot of development. Plus onshore flow conditions, that's fog, typically June gloom and stuff like that. I love me some marine layer. I really do. I love water. I love the rain. I love fog. I love it breaking up and burning off, and the way the light plays with it as it dissipates. As a photographer and film guy, it's always something new. Sorry, I'm just wondering whether or not I've got the still video of the nebula here or the animated version. No, it's this should be, this thing should be moving. Yeah, it is moving. It's subtly moving. There's another version of it. Here we go. And this one's moving too. So this is all done with particle systems. This took forever to render out of Adobe After Effects. I really like this. I do love dancing in the rain. All right, DB, be well, my friend. Thanks for being here, bud. Yeah, I want to have a spaceship where I can fly like this, and I want to take you all with me. Those of you that want to go voluntarily, just to be clear. Not like I'm going to, kidnap you. And I'm going to take you all with me. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've taken the Pacific Surfliner up and down the California coast. Which is the Amtrak train here. It's actually pretty nice. I don't live in San Diego, but I visited there quite a few times. I was dating somebody there for a while. Bloodwood, good to see you. How are you, my friend? Bloodwood, we don't have the normal stuff set up, so we're not doing the shout outs right now. The regular bot is not even running. Trust took the Pacific Surfliner. I think did I suggest it might not be a bad experience? It might not be an awful experience. Hi, cheapness. Yeah, Star Citizen is very pretty. I know the game has a lot of baggage associated with it, but gosh, it's pretty, and it certainly seems like it would be of interest. My back is still bugging me, Bloodwood, but and I'm a bit more sleep deprived because we got this. I normally start my streams at 7. And I streamed last night, and I fired this up at 4 p.m., so 3 hours early. So, yeah, it's going to be a long night. I'm glad you're doing well, my friend. I'm sorry. I like this animation a lot. Those are all different particle systems, by the way. The stars are done in like a different layer of particles that have, there's actually 2 layers. There's tiny layers way in the back. There's big particles. And then the nebula is created from an entirely different set of systems. And actually, all of this, the nebula, the stars, and again, the Pyro-ish system up there, the Chiron thing, those are all done with the same software, just all done with different settings and different criteria. You can really make cinematic results with it. And Unreal's particle systems look like they're like game particles. They don't ever, I've never seen anybody achieve this kind of an aesthetic with Unreal's particles. Maybe possible, but I haven't seen it so far. Hey, Wist, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. How's your family? And of course, how are the cows? I've driven past it. In fact, the last time I was in Vegas, traffic had me drive past it. I had to go, I was going around some sort of a block and I went that way instead to George Air Force Base. But I've actually flown in there and flown out of there. I have a patch. I'm trying to think of the squadron number. I flew a mission once as a journalist with the 452nd Aerial Refueling Wing, which is not a squadron. But I think they were based there. It was a tanker outfit was based there. And I got to fly on Gallant Eagle when the base was still open. This would have been the 80s or 90s. Oh, I'm glad to hear it, Wist. I'm really glad to hear it. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. You may not be able to hear me. Hold on a second. Sorry, there we go. Yeah, it looks like there's still some flying activity at George. Just they've turned it into into reused property. And Wist, I'm glad to hear that, my friend. It's very nice to have you here. Lovely to see you. In fact, doing a little bit of SpaceX Starship coverage today, and now it's Aero Muse mode as we wrapped up. The VOD should be available on the channel if you want to watch it here. You could fast forward through it, or over on YouTube. You could also watch it there as well. Let me see if I can just quickly Google, see if the number I gave you was correct. 452nd. Oh, they're calling it the Air Mobility Wing, and it says it's at March. They might have been. Might have been at George before. I don't recognize any of these patches. They have the KC-46 now, apparently. I love, love, love Air Force and NASA patches. Yeah, I don't see one. It's amazing all of the patches I do see. But I've got a flight suit that I put my... yeah, they were the reserve unit at the time. Were they ever at George back in the 80s or 90s? Maybe it was March I flew out of and not George. It was a long way that way and a long time ago. And that was, I feel it was a KC-10, but I've flown on the KC-135 as well, and much preferred the KC-10 for air-to-air photography. You had like a giant aquarium window versus a little tiny gap in the refueling boom operator's position. George was an F4 base back in the day. Okay, so it must have been March. I must be remembering it incorrectly. They stole parts? Oh my God. Yeah, I was trying to remember the Marine Corps unit I flew with out of, was it Tustin or El Toro, the helicopter squadron, the Warhorse Squadron, 365. They're now flying tilt rotors. And I couldn't remember whether it's 365 or 465. I think it's 365. Oh, it's 465. Hence the confusion. Yeah, third MAW. Well, it's now Heavy Helicopter Squadron. Yeah, they flew Super Stallions. I guess they still have 53s. I thought they transitioned to tilt rotors. Oh, well. Yeah, Marines. I have a video of that flight where the tip of our refueling probe snapped off when we were hitting the basket on a C-130 that had a defective basket. All right. It's 1,800 hours here and change. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Adam, thank you so much for the raid and those gifted subs. Absolute legend. Thank you for your public service, your self-sacrifice. I appreciate you so much. Come see me, folks, tomorrow night, please, or Thursday night. Keep an eye out for the Kerbal space program stream, which I guess we're going to have to try to do now. Thank you, Trust. Appreciate you, buddy. You have a wonderful day, or rest well if you're calling it a night. And yeah, we will regroup and fly in formation once again very soon, my friends. Is that Compla? Acacius, did you just cling on Compla me? I love it. I love it. Here, we'll put this in a fixed position and stop the animation. I don't even know that we should be going on the ending screen here, but maybe we should try that. Probably will not be working correctly. There we go. Also done in Adobe After Effects. This is definitely just a static image. Be well, everybody. Tell the people in your life that you love them. Actually, I guess we should try and raid out. We should try and raid out. I don't normally raid out after these tiny streams, but we should probably do that. Let's see if any of the science people I know are running. Okay, no. All right. My friends, let's go see a good friend of mine. He's a love. Actually, here we go. Here we go. Hold on. There's actually some really wonderful choices here. Let's go right out to a good friend who has raided me time after time after time, who I don't normally get a chance to raid. Let's make his day. Please tell the folks in your life that matter to you that they do matter, because we lose folks without any warning whatsoever. Accidents, disease, natural disasters, all that kind of stuff. You folks make my days better when we get to hang out, and I'm incredibly grateful to you. I said thanks to my great mods earlier. They are the best mod team on all of Twitch, bar none. And I appreciate this community more than you know. I literally think about that every single day. Let's go see Tater Dog, who is a World of Warships streamer and clan commander from North Carolina. He's an electrical engineer, and he plays guitar and writes his own music, and a good guy who raids me all the time. He's got drops enabled. This is a way of saying a little thank you to him as well. So please come with me. I hope you folks take care of yourselves. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for making this a fun stream as we got to share a moment in history together. And I hope you'll join me next time. Take good care, all.